The Carolina Panthers have 28 free agents. They probably have some guys on the roster that are likely going to be cut, maybe even traded. I don't know that there's many prospects that are going to have trade value. But needless to say, we've got some needs that the Carolina Panthers have to address this offseason. And I did all the work for you. I went out, I analyzed the roster, we looked at our free agency group, and wanted you guys to be informed on who I think or what I think the positional group needs are for the Carolina Panthers. We will start on the offensive side of the ball. Pretty easy here to analyze what is needed. Starting on the offensive line, I would look at a center. There's no doubt. The Panthers do not have a center under contract. Is that Cade Mays, Brady Christensen, Austin Corbett? One of those guys. Do they look at free agency and or maybe in the draft, which is something they did not do this past season? So center on the offensive line. Left tackle, left guard, right guard are in prime position. This is whatever your opinion is. Like the we've heard from Dan Morgan, Dave Canales, like those positions are locked up. The only other one that I would consider on the offensive line is right tackle, again with Taylor Moton. But, I think the Panthers should be able to keep him and retain him, possibly through an extension to make his cap number a little more manageable. However, you have to remember if the Panthers did decide to cut him post June 1, I believe it's $12 or $13 million cap saving. Not saying they should do it, but right now it's a center, possibly right tackle. Sticking with the offensive line, or at least close to the offensive line, a tight end or two is absolutely going to be in the mix. I think you look at bringing back Tommy Tremble. Sorry to see you go, Ian Thomas. I mean, seriously, I appreciate all the players and what they put on the line, whether or not you like them or not, that's on you. But Ian Thomas likely out of here in Carolina. Next up, we have a running back. We still have Miles Sanders, who had one heck of a breakout, possibly last game in Carolina, because guess what? His number goes down as well this year. I still think the Panthers need to find someone to pair alongside with Chuba Hubbard in the event he gets hurt, and just to share the load. We saw that Chuba Hubbard got a majority of the snaps, even when there was a healthy rotation behind him. You really need just one more guy. And then, of course, as we've used Raheem Blackshear, possibly someone that can return. Last position of need, no surprise here, another wide receiver. And really, it's geared towards a number one wide receiver. I'd still think the Panthers, because remember, they had like 10 or 11 wide receivers in camp. Number's going to be big. You still have Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, Xavier Legette. Decent foundation there. You still got to find your number one. I like the idea of bringing back David Moore. I also like looking around at maybe some lesser known guys that could be available. So that's your offensive side of the ball. On the defense, we might as well say we need anything and everything because that's what we need. I don't think there's a position on the defensive side of the ball that will not be looked at. And I mean, honestly, across the board. Now, if we're trying to rank or stack, I think you have to start with the edge, outside linebacker. It's got to happen. Then you can stick along the defensive front. You can go with a defensive end or a defensive tackle, in my opinion. Now, you're going to have Derek Brown. You're going to have A'Shawn Robinson. You can never go wrong. So maybe if you are relying on those two ends, you throw in a tackle, a nose tackle that could go along with that. Pair nicely. Younger version, someone to replace Shai Tuttle. I look right behind them, inside linebacker. Now you have Josie Jewell. You have Trevin Wallace. What are the Panthers going to do with Shaq Thompson? Injured in back-to-back years. He's getting up in age. I think the Panthers still need to strongly consider boosting the linebacking core. They looked out last year to add in another linebacker from Denver who decided to make a return. I still think Ejiro Evero, as we look at the defensive scheme, is going to need some help at the linebacker position. Secondary needs help. Feels like every safety, I think it's 5 safeties are free agents. It's going to be a complete overhaul in the secondary. We need some guys. Unfortunately, the Carolina Panthers had a pretty good safety. You're a guy who's playing safety now in Jeremy Chin for the Washington Commanders, but he's not here. So we got to figure this out. Total reset there. And then lastly, cornerback. I do put cornerback in the mix because we don't have one. Dane Jackson did not work out. It's kind of a flop. but we don't really have anyone else outside of J.C. Horn. I'd like to bring back Mike Jackson, as I've reiterated. But in my opinion, there is no wrong position you could look at on the defensive side of the ball. Everything we did on offense, replicate that, and then give Bryce Young a number one wide receiver. And this team is going to be cooking and in a much better position heading into next year. As always, folks, this is Carolina Dad. Thanks y'all for tuning in. Let me know what y'all think. Have a good one.